Yes, you always have the Lord by your side. In fact, that's what they are spinning in the churches. The Jehovah's Witnesses are saying that, and the Mormons are saying that, and they're all saying that. You always have the Lord by your side. And of course, I'm going to expose what the churches are up to, and I have in many of my radio shows and presentations on YouTube, etc. Um, and here today on Oracle Broadcasting Network, I'm going to give a little bit of, shine a bit of light on how the system works and how the governments controlled by the elites work hand in hand with the corporate churches in the realm of Christendom and the ship, the Vatican ship, because they're all in on the same ship, all of them. They call themselves Protestant and they jump up and down and take the high moral ground and say, oh, we have the Lord with us, we have the Lord with us. Don't go into any of the other churches. Their God is a fiction. And their God would lead you to destruction, you see. Only the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to be saved. They know that. They absolutely know it. And of course, so do the Presbyterians, Methodists, Calvinists, Baptists. They all know that they are the only true church, and their franchise is the true one, and all others shall perish. You see, so I'm going to expose what this is doing to society and to conscious humanity at large, and how it is like a dag on a sheep's bum to the evolution and progress of humanity in embracing a universal consciousness and a universal loving brotherhood, a fraternity where equality and temperance and forbearance and hospitality and love and goodness are the order of the day, where people won't be chasing the dollar, the Federal Reserve dollar run by a couple of families, because they want to, and because they love champagne and caviar and Cuban cigars and cocktail parties and all of this ruling and controlling the world business stuff. And they do this through their corporations, you see. Churches are corporations. And what is a corporation? A corporation is an unconscious entity. It is an unconscious control mechanism, you see. And this is why we have the results of an unconscious system being the controlling mechanism and governing mechanism of the whole world, which is under Rome, which is a good portion of the world, really. And it's a portion of the world that has been bankrupted by the Vatican banks, the IMF and the World Bank. And in the United States, I'll say the United States for now, not the United States of America. In the corporate entity of the United States, the unconscious Act of 1871, under which all the citizens are on the ship in, this unconscious entity is controlled by Rome and the City of London. There are 3 city-state enterprise. These are Vatican enterprises. You see, the Washington, D.C. runs the military, London runs the finance, and Rome, well, Rome is the perennial whore. Babylon the Great, the seat of Satan, the seat of the wicked system under which we are born into. And in particular, since 1933 in the United States, did citizenship via the birth certificate become what we say compulsory, you see. By law, you should register your children. Prior to that, there was no such thing. Or yes, there was. There was the bonds, the sales certificates, the warehouse certificates and the bonds of the slaves in the slave trade, you see. The African Americans that were brought over. You see, because that's what a birth certificate is. Same thing. Stock. It's a securitized stock on the stock market. It's a bond. Bonding. Bonding, well, we know what bond means, don't we? Oh, yeah. So the system has created a docket, a warehousing docket, whereby our parents inform on us and create a corporate entity, and immediately thereafter registering this birth certificate. That certificate is securitized and on the stock market. And away go the bankers trading in the slave trade. That's the slave trade, the lawful slave trade. You see, it wasn't abolished in 1815, just unlawful slavery was abolished. Lawful slavery just went on. And it's called, getting a job, 9 to 5, because, of course, Rome has distracted all the good people on this planet from their good work. You see, we incarnated on this planet to come here and do good work. But we've decided that doing good works like spending time with our families and growing our own gardens for our own health and benefit, and growing our communities in love and solidarity and all those good notions, true notions, we're off getting jobs. Climbing the corporate ladder, that's a good idea. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about that. Another good idea is keeping up with the Joneses, because they've got 6 SUVs, and last time we counted, we only had 3 parked outside the garage, and we don't have the same colour one as the new colour that's come out, so we need that. There's the stock market. Oh yeah, let's share in that, because we are shareholders of the corporation. Now, in Australia, where I was born, in Victoria, I was born in a company called the Commonwealth of Australia. So with that in mind, I'll take a break, come back and discuss this. Let's give peace a chance. John Lennon, of course, John Lennon was put out of the way for speaking about peace in times of war. And he did reveal this. He revealed and spoke to close people by his side that he was being followed, and he knew that he warned his friends that if anything happened, it was the CIA. He told them, prepared them. Michael Jackson virtually did the same thing, because they spoke out about the New World Order, and they spoke out about the enslavement, about which I am going to uncover and have uncovered and will uncover until such time as my eyes and everyone else's eyes see the demise and fall of this house of cards, which is the Roman Empire, kingdom of ideas, of useless and old ideas which do not serve humanity anymore. And one of those is the corporate system, the system of unconsciously controlling the world, because corporations do not think, breathe, love, exist. They are dead, useless pieces of paper, just like the corporation of the Commonwealth of Australia, under which I was registered and have removed my registration by serving notice and returning the birth certificate. Commonwealth of Australia. registered at the Securities and Exchange Commission, Washington, D.C. 20549. Notice of effectiveness. Effectiveness. Date July 27th, 2011. A session number 000134104/11/001517. Submission type POS AM. SIK 0000805157. Company name Commonwealth of Australia. File number 333/163307. And this is how the whole world is run unconsciously through this corporate Vatican system. And we're about to witness the demise of this system, people. Now, I'm going to give the numbers, the call-in numbers, please, for the network call-in numbers for local and international. Local is 512-904-8014. International 1866-841-1065. So what we see is a system whereby people are pulled off the land and brought into a different jurisdiction. It's the jurisdiction of Admiralty, maritime. You see, the pirates need for the citizens to get on the ship, you see, and they pull people off their land jurisdiction into their jurisdiction by asking for a name. May I have your name, please? What's your name? What is your family name? Usually comes along with that question. You see, they need both names to establish the jurisdiction because they want the registered name, and that has to be two names, you see. The Christian name, what they call the Christian name, and the family name. That's the corporate part of the name, you see. And usually, you see, they want ID. Can I see some ID? And the reason why they're asking for proof of self or identity is because, you see, the name does not belong to us. Yeah, it belongs to the state, you see. So carrying a motor driver's license to do commercial activity on the highways of the king, on the waterways, in our cruises on the waterways of the Vatican and the king, that's naughty, you see. They've enclosed that area for themselves, you see. So we are on the run, slaves on the run. So that's why they pull us up in their cruises on the ship, and they want the ID because they want proof that we are fraudulently carrying state property on our person. And of course we turn that ID over and we say, there it is. And they take it off our hands and they say, thank you very much. You've just incriminated yourself, idiot. And they proceed to write down some numbers, you see, some unconscious numbers. And they write down a name, and then they write down how much they're going to charge your account because you were doing 4 miles over the speed limit, and therefore a naughty boy or girl. And so by giving the name and the ID, we've proven to the cruisers on the ship, the pirates in their clown suits, that we are in fraud. We are acting in fraud. So what they now do is they charge the account, you see, the dead unconscious account the Sestui KV trust account that the birth certificate number is attached to. And these would be three Vatican-created documents called Sestui KV trusts, hooked up to the papal bull of Unam Sanctum of 1302 by Pope Boniface VIII, the first express trust in history, which conveys all the land and chattel and souls and spirits of the earth into the Vatican pirate ship, the Holy See. Yes, that's the name of the ship, the Holy See. And the Holy See is a ship that goes upon the waters, the maritime waters. And the captains of those ships, you'll find those in the courts. You see, the magistrates, the men in black, the Saturnian cult, the people who are controlled by the dark satellite, the dark orb of this earth, containing the animal unconscious portion of undeveloped good in the solar system. And you see, these people, this undeveloped good that we see around us, that's who's running the show, because they're all unconscious. You see, we've been living in a time of darkness in which unconscious rather than consciousness, unconsciousness has been ruling the earth via the corporations. And with these juicy thoughts in mind, we shall take a music break and return after the break. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci. And in these 2 hours, I'll be discussing dominion, sovereignty, the name, and the benefits of having a name connected to the system, and other miscellaneous themes. So, discussing the ship, the citizenship that we have been made slaves via Rome's birth certificates, etc. They tell us that we get benefits from these, you see. And we do. Except in their books, the benefits are detriments, because they are not what they pretend to offer. Benefits like going to jail if you're stupid enough to go into court and well, challenge the jurisdiction and just general turning up at court, which is a place of crime, where crime takes place, you see, where they control crime and make sure that they are the only ones that have the monopoly on it. They do not want to share the crime with anyone else. So if they catch people, they herd them in. Based on that name, they send them a summons and say, "Oh, we've caught you. You're trying to dip into our business." You see, and they want to control it and monopolize it. And this word monopoly turns up in quite a few interesting places. You know, the mon word, monarchies, money, monotheism, all the cabal words. You see, because this cabal has been working together. The black nobility of Rome in particular, and the rest of Europe, because it's all the one big family, one big happy banking family. And they've found a way of doing nothing but getting everything. For bankers do not produce anything that can be consumed or used. They are a parasite. It's a parasitic entity on society. You see, but we've tolerated it because they have a contract in place. They've made a deal with the governments that they can use those securitized bonds And they are, and they're doing it. So when we proudly say that we are the sole shareholders of our corporation and the general executors of the estate, etc., we're proud of having a share as a shareholder in the holdings of the estate of the corporation. So one might want to ask, what would that corporation stand for? And what does that corporation make and produce? And what are the results? Can we see the results? Can we see if it's a good thing to have these shares, to be the sole shareholder of the corporation, which is giving billions of dollars to the banksters, and in effect providing them for a chattel animal slave trade base for which they can tax the corpse that they are the parasites of, and and so they are happy to have those bonds and those securities. So we're quite proud of the fact that we're shareholders. You see, when we go to court and we defend our name and we protect that copyrighted name, if you can do such a thing, if it's possible to copyright something that does not belong to you. That's interesting how people think that they've copyrighted their names and they're actually operating lawfully when they're in fraud, copyrighting a name that doesn't belong to them. Because the name is a negation. And I've discussed this already in previous shows on Oracle Broadcasting Network, but it might be handy just to review these points. The name is a negation. In Rome, nomen, the word for name, N-O-M-E-N, means no men. In Spanish, which is a Latin language, nombre means no man. So when a police officer, a public servant, approaches and asks for a name, they are asking for a negation because they want to make sure that they can contract with you on their ship, pull you off the land. Because if we remember who we are, we should remember that we are source. And we are trans-dimensional beings, and these bodies are not to be enslaved just because they're physical, just because they have names attached to them. We are still the divine. Oh, but we've forgotten. Well, the masses, the majority, the sheeple have forgotten. And that's why they're so easy to manipulate. It's beautiful to see. It's amazing to see, you know, you wake up in the morning and hop on the freeway at 5:30 in the morning and you see all these sheeple rushing to work, coffee on the dashboard, smoking their cigarettes. Who knows how many children they're leaving behind to I don't know. What are these people who look after other people's children, you know? Nannies and stuff like that, and nurseries where they put their children. I mean, wow. What a what a letdown. What a letdown. Come to this planet. You come through a mother and a father, two beautiful spirit beings, and after 5 or 6 years of them nurturing you and loving you and everything like that, they throw you in a kindergarten and off you go. State education, bang, mind control. Inform on you on the day you're born to the government. Tell them, yep, there's another child born in the ward of the state, in a military facility, which is what a hospital is, run by the Knights Hospitalier, and the St. John's people too, of course. They run everything, as I will explain eventually in a few minutes. The monotheistic part of this cabal, yeah, you know, the Zionist, the corporate Christian, and the Islamist extremist parts of monotheism. They're just corporations. And I'm not talking about the roots of Judaism, which is Kabbalah, and the roots of Christianity, Gnosticism, and occult science. Same with Sufi, Muslim Sufi wisdom, deep in the heart of the Eastern traditions. These are sciences. But what we see today, the corporate monstrosities that are based on these sciences, these are antichrists. These are animalistic, unconscious corporations, people. These are what have enslaved us and perpetuating wars around the world. And they do that because they have a good chattel base, a good tax-paying base to do so. I mean, everybody's subscribed to their business. The corporation of the United States is a military-industrial complex. It makes drones and killing machines, and your birth certificate is basically just your share in that business and your support, wholehearted, probably. In the case of many, but whether it's wholehearted or not, it is whole, absolutely whole support. In a material sense, it's all the support they need because they get to make millions on the bond market. You see, that's why they love their stock market. Oh, that stock market. We got a bull market. Oh, we've got a bear market. No, no, no. And you see, they play with these markets. They play with them. And it's all a Ponzi scheme, and it's all a third-party debt collecting scheme. And this is what I want to get into in the next section after the break. We're going to a break in a minute. And I want to talk about how the corporation began back in good old Rome. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci, and discussing some aspects regarding our citizenship and names, etc., court, maritime law, and the perceived benefits that we get from our citizenship. You see, now, the system has been running a slave operation for a good couple of thousand years. And most of the corporations that run the planet will be connected to the monotheistic theocratic organizations, or the corporate versions of them, which I would consider to be the Antichrist. And that would be the corporate registered religions, you see, that come under, when it comes to Christianity, they come under Christendom. Once upon a time, Europe was Christendom. And because Europe had a geocentric view of the world whereby Christ's kingdom, Christendom, was the center, and the blessed kingdom of the earth and all the other kingdoms were cursed. You see, there were Hindus beyond the kingdom of Christ. There were indigenous people in the Americas prior to Columbus's arrival that were not safe because of not belonging under the dome of Christ. So these heathens had to be converted. You see, so the imperialist elites of Rome that have been working behind the scenes, pumping money into all of the corporate Christian churches, set about Christianizing and corporatizing the whole world, land grabbing really. And they started with the Columbus families to go out, you know, spread abroad, spread out there. I mean, Africa was not enough, enslaving the blacks. And most of the Eastern Europeans, the Slavic people, that's why they call them Slavic, because the Romans were harvesting slaves from the Slavic people. And hence we have Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Yugoslavia. and Slovenia, you see, because the Romans were getting slaves from everywhere, weren't they? A happy bunch of families. Now there was an emperor back in Rome in the 4th century, and he happened to be a relative of Constantine the Great. And this beautiful man, Julian, in the year 363 of our common era, he saw the disastrous effect of corporate Christianity when his great uncle Constantine the Great at the Council of Nicaea accepted Christianity, in parentheses, as the official Roman church and religion, and all people were to be converted. And many bribes were paid to weak-minded ones of the old religion, and they were converted to Christianity. Many were killed. There was a lot of bloodshed. But that was the time when corporate Christianity was here to stay. And of course, Julian, 40 years after this time, 45 odd years after Constantine the Great, he returned the world, the Roman world, back to the old ways. And he wrote his orations to the sun, because all ancient religions and theologies were centered on the sun, you see. And so he returned the world back to their senses and the bloodshed of Christianity that went prior to him for 40 years. And he was killed in 363, but this is what he wrote. Julian, they called him Julian the Apostate. Haha, I wonder why. Well, he wrote against the Galileans, didn't he? And in his book he says, at the very, very introduction, the first words of the book against the Galileans, he said, "The time has come for me to say, for the benefit of all, how I discovered beyond any doubt that the stories of the Galileans are the inventions of deceivers and tricksters. For these men seduce people into thinking that their gruesome story," that's the historical Christ story, it's absolutely gruesome if you look at it on a historical plane, you know, it's pure fiction, pure fiction. For these men seduce people into thinking that their gruesome story is the truth by appealing to the part of the soul that loves what is simple and childish. Further on in the book, after he exposed the Galileans, the Christians, you see, because what happened was there were some powerful families in Galilee, and they were related to the Julian dynasty, you see, at the time. The Julian dynasty at the time of the supposed historical Christ, the Saviour / Redeemer / vicarious Son of God, third-party soul collector. He turned up in the reign of Augustus, Tiberius, Claudius, around that area he was in his ministry, you see. Even though Plutarch and all these other guys don't know anything about him. No one does. No one did. No one wrote anything about it. Jesus himself didn't write a thing. Came to save the world from the other side of the universe as the Son of God and Redeemer, and just came here for 30 years and probably didn't get around to, well, he didn't get around to writing anything for posterity. Just waited for someone like Matthew, Mark and Luke and John after 40 years of silence to all of a sudden show up on the scene and say, well, hey, let's retrospectively write about our Lord Jesus Christ, shall we? Well, you see, these Galilean families, they intermarried with Roman elite. And that's where all the trouble began, because these Galileans invented the fiction of the Christ story. And that's what Julian has exposed in his book. And I urge sincere people with open minds and loving hearts who love the truth to read Julian's Against the Galileans, edited and translated by R. Joseph Hoffman. And he's done a great job on this one. and he's done a great job on Celsus's books. Celsus was 200 years before Julian, and he's also done a great job on Porphyry. He did Porphyry against the Christians, and Celsus on the true doctrine. Now, I can glean a lot of information from those other works too, but today I'm going to stick with Julian because he was an emperor of Rome, and he knew, like JFK, he knew that the system was a stinking and corrupt, and they reformed, or tried to reform. But like JFK, Julian was killed. And this is what he said. You yourselves behave like the Jews who vent their rage and petulance by raising altars and destroying temples. Talking to the Christians here. And you slaughter us as well. Not only those of us who remain true to the teachings of our ancestors, but even your own. Or those you style heretics because they do not bewail a corpse in the manner your teachers demand. These are your own deeds. Nowhere did Jesus or Paul pass on rules for such actions. And why? Because never could they have imagined that their followers would have such power as they have now. They were happy with seducing naive women and slaves, and through them their mistresses, and men like Cornelius and Sergius. Should you show me that either of these men is recalled by any of the acknowledged historians of that time? And let's treat this paragraph a little bit later after the break, shall we? Thank you. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network, and you're with Santos Bonacci, and discussing the name and the corporate fictions and the unconscious aspect of the system that is controlling us by virtue of the name. And I was reading out of Julian's Against the Galileans before the break, and I'll get back to that in a minute, but I just want to share the phone numbers for any callers, local callers: 512-904-8014. Very late for people in the US at the moment, but probably people from the UK. International callers, number is 1-866-841-1065. And reading from Julian's work Against the Galileans, how he exposed that they were a corporate fiction, or they had a lying, deceiving teaching that appealed to people who love what is simple and childish. And then he went on to say how they destroy temples, they raise altars, they slaughter anyone who doesn't believe in their fictional corporate savior, and he exposed them. And he went on to say that, and he mentioned two scriptural people, Cornelius and Sergius, and in parenthesis he said, should you show me that either of these men is recalled by any of the acknowledged historians of that time, as these events are said to have happened during the reign of Tiberius and Claudius, or Claudius, rather, I would be happy to conclude that I have misrepresented you. So Julian is now posing what many great scholars have posed to the corporate Christian Christendom, and that is, where's the proof? You talk about Cornelius and Sergius, but here's Julian, the emperor, saying our records do show that no one of the kind ever existed in Rome. Well, let me read it again. He said, should you show me that either of these men is recalled by any of the acknowledged historians of that time? You see, and this is where many people argue, many great scholars have argued, there is no literal proof, historical proof, except for a couple of very, very feeble sentences in the works of Tacitus, Pliny the Younger, Suetonius, and Josephus. Flavius Josephus, that is. And we begin to see that there is certainly a lack of evidence. In fact, there is nowhere where it is written anything in an autobiographical sense about Jesus Christ having ever done anything. So we see that the third-party debt collecting scam comes from deep in the heart of Rome. Now, I've just barely scratched the surface on this subject, and I won't have time to treat it properly, but I will in subsequent shows. I will go at length to show many evidences, not just Julian the Emperor, but thousands upon thousands that I have accumulated in my studies, and I will be sharing those. And after the break, I'm going to introduce a guest, special guest, Catherine of Gaia. Let's give peace a chance. John Lennon. And welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci. And I have with me for the second hour a special guest, Kate of Gaia. Kate, you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Great to be here. Great to be here. Regardless of what time. So, what time is it there for you down under?
It's just shortly after 8 p.m. and the sun is about to go down.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it's just after 4 a.m. here. I just got out of bed to come and do this. This is awesome. Waking to the cause. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you're in Ontario, aren't you? Guelph, Ontario.
Yeah. I'm the as above to your as below, so we got the planet covered. It's all good.
Yeah. Well, Kate, for the first hour, I've been talking about our favourite subject at the moment, and the most empowering subject, the most important subject that a sovereign can possibly consider, the name, and the situation with the enslavement that has ensued by this amazing system that has been around for quite a few, at least 1,000 to 2,000 years. And it's basically a Roman system based on the Sestui KV Trust. I spoke a bit about that in the first hour. What I'd like to do, Kate, because it's the first time I've had you on Oracle Broadcasting Network. I've been talking with you on other shows, but I would really like to introduce to these listeners, and I know that Oracle Broadcasting Network reaches out to great truthers and people who are sincerely looking for freedom and liberty and justice and truth and all the things that we stand for. And I know you very well, you know me, and we know that we know ourselves, and we know that we, pardon all the repetitiveness there, but that we love the truth and we want to see the world liberated from the clutches of control. Now, firstly, please, would you be able to quickly introduce yourself? Because a lot of the truthers out there listening today will have seen your most viewed sovereignty video in the history of YouTube, how to make a judge bow, a sovereign in court making a judge bow and leave under 3 minutes, or even less. But anyway, that was when you were in Keith mode, Kate. Can you please explain and introduce yourself?
I think I set a record there. I don't ever plan on trying to be. It was 2 minutes and 42 seconds, but it was what people don't realize, it was a 7.5 hour day. For those, I'm of the Hermes Aphrodite persuasion, so I'm what's known as a two-spirit. So I kind of had a notion of how important it was to be free, having been in prison my whole life. So it was pretty cool. By choice, of course. We all choose to be here. We all choose our games, and I guess I stuck my hand up for this one. So here I am. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's been an interesting walk, yes, to say the least. It's been a life discovery, not so much in the last couple of years, because, and I don't like using the word movement or anything, because this is not about getting branding of, the sovereign movement or the free man or whatever the hell movement you want to call it. Truth is simply truth. You don't you don't need to call it anything. So I just kind of like to stay in that very, very neutral area. Um, and it is all about knowing thyself. With regards to um, the last, say, year and a half, this is where I've seen most of the impact. And what I've done is I knew what happened that day in the court. I knew exactly what went on. I knew exactly the power that I wielded, as we all do in this corporate paper over, literally the drowning of the planet. And something I did want to cover, Santo, just to give people the visual of this water world and how Admiralty can come right up to your door, your landing, get it? How they can get right up to your door. It's because they put the planet 2 feet underwater. So how did they do that? Well, what they did was they did a survey where, you know, the surveyors would start at the shoreline, and, you know, no one bothered to tell anybody how high or high low the tide was. Generally, they run the mean tide height, so it's never going to be right on the money anyway. But what they did was, if you look around, you'll see these little. This goes back to my architectural studies and surveying. You'll see these little obelisks, and they have a brass plate on the side of it. I'm not sure if you have them down there, but it's kind of the standard thing I've heard from people. We have obelisks here. I'm from Ireland, and they had obelisk type things there as well. And they like using old buildings, things that are very, very permanent, you know, solid, so that their law will never move too much, even in an earthquake. But what they did was they took these measurements about 2 feet off the ground on this brass plate. So your sea level is actually the sea level less 2 feet. So you're walking around quite literally, in their eyes, 2 feet underwater. So that's how they covered the planet in water. They brought the Phoenician Admiralty Merchant Commerce Law to your very door. So they put the planet underwater. Now, what they did was, and you've talked about the Sesquivi and Onum Sanctum and the rest of that. What they did with the church was they cast the big net, claiming title and property on, over, and under the earth. Key phrases being title and property. They didn't say the flesh and blood of anything. So what they did was they made everyone get convinced that they had to be a title, you know, a king, a queen, a sir, a master, a ma'am, a madam, or whatever. Didn't matter. But what they needed to do most of all was to get us away from who we really are and get us thinking that we're a title, and then, of course, a name. And then the surnames were added, the nom de guerre, all the rest of it. So they've done quite a job at layering it up. Also, what they did was they contrived what we call the English language. Now, language is 2 words, which is French langage, which is tongue pledge. So just like a mortgage or a mortgage is a death pledge. So they play quite seriously. So what we are at the registration of birth, which is where this all goes to, we are literally dead bodies floating on a corporate ocean. The pirates, the privateers, the cruisers, you know, the cop cruisers, just come around and they can salvage us at will. And they do. And they do. So the game here is, and it's kind of funny, some though, because, I've read the Bible as well. Excuse me. But I never thought I'd come back to it in the way that, well, we're coming back to it, because the truth is there. Just not
Kate, just hang on to that thought. Sounds like a real good one, and we'll cover that after the break.
Okay.
Yes, and welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci and Kate of Gaia. Kate, before the break, we were discussing the, can you just go straight into it, because I've actually forgotten the thought.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I'm still trying to gather my own here. Almost got the first coffee down, so we're getting there.
Good, nice and awake.
Yeah, when I started out on this, I had a lot of people were asking for help and this, that, and the other, especially right after the video. but I'd already been working on a number of different remedies. I'd already, years ago, I beat CRA because I knew it was a scam outfit. And my first introduction to the name at all, and Unum Sanctum, was Eldon Warman. And I spent literally 4 days solid on his site. This is like 7, 8 years ago, detaxcanada.org. And I learned a lot very, very quickly in the basics because I knew it had to be simple. Everything always, like the mighty oak, always comes back down to the little acorn. So I choose natural law to see things in nature and bring it back. So I knew it always had to be something in common, something we all had in common, regardless of language, regardless of color, regardless of where we were on this planet. It had to be something that each and every one of us had in common. And as that turns out, regardless of the language, religion, etc., we all have a name. So there's the most simple way I could see it for mankind's common denominator. And what I did was I worked the formula backwards just to see how they did it. Because with the numbers of people that were coming to me early on, I was trying to write documents that were basically blanket documents that, fill in your name here, very basic understanding, and, send it off to law firms or whatever, right? And I've done lots in terms of shutting law firms down and courts, getting courts sealed, getting people removed from court while on the cell phone with them and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun, making stuff go away. And I was looking for that one key, the one ring that would rule them all, that anyone could use. And what I ended up with was the Denique Ultimatum Reverio Verum. One of the things that people will probably notice immediately is it looks like there's a typo there and this and that and the other. I said, no, this is a culmination document after having written hundreds upon hundreds of documents previous to it. And, serving up the Crown, serving up the Vatican City, Washington, D.C., the Rothschilds. There's no point in talking to the corporals because the corporals aren't trained to know this, so you might as well go for the heads of the dragon, right? And I got to tell you, a lot of times sending the stuff that I've sent in the past, there's a little twitching in the finger when, we're going to hit that send button. Because, the whole game here is to stay in honor, and that's what you have to do. This is not about vengeance. You got to start using their rule book, the Bible, for what it really is. It's a clue book, but you have to read it from a certain perspective. You have to read it from the half-truth deception that they tell you something quite literally, but they take you off on a different direction. It's like, ye must be born again. Everyone's taught that they have to go and worship the Son, Jesus and blah, blah, blah. Not to get to the Father except through me, et cetera, et cetera. So they meant that quite literally. Ye must be born again. And upon birth, parents are told that they must fill out a registration for the child and blah, blah, blah. And of course, they make all these promises of, benefits from the state, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the thing. There was intent to do something other than what they were saying. They were being completely honest that you would get benefits, but they didn't tell you to what extent, the benefits that were going to be created by the virtue of selling the child into slavery spiritually. And people need to know what the word register means. It's two words, regis and stir. Regis means to rule, and any word with stir in it means feminine, creative feminine spirit, basically. So think master, mister, sister, monster. In terms of the ship, bow to stern. So one must bow to stern, must bow to the feminine. And that's what was hidden most of all. So what they did, when your parents register the child, or like me, they literally sold my creative feminine essence to the Crown. So anytime I would ever use that now, without my knowledge, I would be committing fraud because I was using the intellectual property of another that was sold fair and square. Wasn't completely open. That's why, mortgages are all fraud, because there's certainly not full disclosure, and there's certainly no consideration in the transaction, but they're doing it in honor. And that's what I was doing with people seeing what they were doing. You know, some would win, some would lose, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, tried the same thing twice, and then once it worked and once it didn't. So I had to see. I was trying to figure out how the individual was going into dishonor in the court. But no matter how many times we tried, and I've written lots of stuff, I watched the court system back up step by step. You know, so we adjusted. At least I did anyway. You know, as soon as something would work for a little bit, then it would stop working. And I thought, okay, they're letting people away with this. They're letting people win lottery tickets here, right? So it finally boiled down to that court video, and I was trying to get that into words. And I've had this in my head for, like, you know, many months, trying to figure out how I could explain it to people where it would be very simple, yet not so simple that they couldn't see it or believe it at first glance, because this is so hard to believe. It will blow your mind. It will blow your mind. Get rid of the name. You've already won the game, because now you're an honor. Now I'm taking it to a whole new level this week as far as accountability. I think I have the master key to how the royals were actually enslaved. And don't kid yourself, the royal family, they're slaves as well. We're all slaves to it. Well, not all. I'm not. And I've got a very, very specific and particular situation that I am, that for some reason, go figure, all by coincidence, I was perfectly set up to be doing exactly what I'm doing. Cool, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I find the same thing with my life, Kate. Everything that has contributed to where I've come, I mean, I can enumerate many things that have led me to where I am now. I'm thankful that I read, for instance, Immanuel Velikovsky in the early 80s when I started on my truth journey. I'm thankful that when I used to go to my Jehovah's Witness meetings for 22 years, I used to bring my interlinear translation, you see, the old ancient Koine Greek, and I made a study of learning Greek, the old Koine or Kine Greek. And I used to bring my interlinear translation, and whenever the scriptures, the Bible was opened, I would follow in Greek. And I always used to ask myself, why am I doing this? I mean, do I have to really exert myself to learn languages, to learn Latin, to learn Greek, Spanish, French, Portuguese? I served in a Portuguese-speaking congregation for 2 years. I served in an Italian-speaking congregation for 4 years. And I wondered what these things would come to, and now I've found that there's been a good reason for that, because I've been able to put together what I have. And with that, let's take a break and catch you on the other side. Yes, and welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci and special guest Kate of Gaia. Kate, we were talking about how all of our research and path that we've taken, the journey in life, etc., all the things that we've done have sort of wound up being extremely useful. All the experiences put together, the whole...
Yeah, some of the parts. Yeah, definitely the sum of the parts became greater than the whole. And more and more, after that day, that wonderful day in September where everything went perfect. That's what happens when you let go and let Curator talk. All the answers were there. I just had to try to figure out how to let people know that we've all been duped, and duped we were. Because here's the thing: once a name is registered, you don't own it. Anything that's registered is now Crown owned, and that was their intent to begin with. So what you do with everything that you register is you literally give away the creative feminine to another party, your spiritual essence. So they own you lock, stock, and barrel. And again, all the bodies are floating around until you decide to come to shore. And that's what I've created here. And I think it's probably some of the first dry land that's true dry land in a very true sense, outside of their system in centuries. And That's where I am, is the highest land in the fictional corporate city jurisdiction of Guelph, which by coincidence is the real royal family name. Albert Guelph, who married Queen Victoria, changed his family name to Hanover when they came to the throne.
Avast, virus status.
Sorry about that, guys. That's what happens early in the morning. I don't want to be here when my computer updates anyway. Yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to direct people to my blog page because there are a lot of documents there. And the word page, or my blog page, is this: loveovermind.wordpress.com. All one word. Loveovermind, that's loveovermind.wordpress.com. All my contact information is there. Feel free. Email me. Add me to your Skype contacts. I make myself available to all, as is my contract to all. Universe sorts it out, so I don't worry about it being overloaded. Universe delivers as I can handle it. And it's beautiful. Once you let go of this roller coaster, once you take the steering wheel off the car and stop trying to steer through this, you'll be fine. It's the illusion out there that's got everyone spinning.
And Kate, how do we help the listeners to lose the name, win the game? You have written up a beautiful document, 4 pages or 5 pages, whereby you turn this document into the authorities along with your birth certificate, notify them of the fraud, and return their fraudulent paperwork.
Yeah, that's why I like to direct people to my blog, because there you're going to find, when you click on the Documents tab on the front page when you open it, you're going to see what's called the Dummy's Guide to Freedom. It's a double play on the word dummies. I'm not being insulting, actually. I'm referencing you and the dummy that you're the ventriloquist for. And that's one of the analogies I use in the game To End All Names. So that is a very comprehensive setup. And again, don't get too technical, because they want you to think only in their rules. Sorry, my court, I make my own up. That's how it works. That's because I've regained my creative feminine. I can create whatever I want, and it has the intent and power of everything I need. This is when you start to learn to know thyself. And it's not been an easy road, I will assure you of that. I am a lot of ego chewing, because that's what you need to do. You need to remove what I like to call the tricky little bastard, the ego program, which is 250 genomes that was inserted into the DNA a very long time ago to grow a little something called the reptilian brainstem. They even tell you what it is. And that is the one thing we literally don't have shields around our minds. And that's what they've been using to, weaken us down with fluorides and aluminums and all the rest of this, and the radio frequencies, HARP, et cetera, to docilate and put us back to sleep, because mankind is awakening now. It's too late for them. It's done. Based on what I'm seeing, they're done. It's going exponential every day. And everyone that I need to talk to is showing up exactly when they need to show up. And all it's doing is accelerating literally the clock. And it's just beautiful to behold.
Yeah. Kate, I was discussing before you came on in the first hour how, by virtue of the birth certificate, it's actually a baptism into the Catholic Church, really, the universal system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how complicit all the Christian corporate churches are in this system, because they are very, very ignorant, which I doubt.
No,
or
they're not ignorant.
They know this. No, they're not. They're not. They know this, and they are complicit with it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I'm talking Protestants, people who believe they have protested and separated themselves from the whore, Babylon the Great, the Catholic system, Rome. But this proves that they are one and the same. And unless they go, we have no peace on this planet.
And,
They've
and
got to
they
be
use
called out.
they use the same tactic all the time. And it's interesting that you brought up Martin Luther, because Martin Luther was another plant, right? What he was, the people were awakening. So what they always do, the divide and conquer, and they divide within, right? They're like a cell themselves. So what happened with, the Protestants is they were starting to rebel against Rome, but they still wanted to keep them under the church and the same lies. So well, let's create another one. So every time mankind was awakening, they would steer it off. And I'll use the U.S. election as a prime example of that. You see, because they know they'd lost the people in terms of just sheer fear and control. So what do? Well, in the background, they keep someone like a Ron Paul groomed, from very young age to play the role of the champion of the Constitution, and get this way. It keeps them in the system. It keeps all the sheeple in the system, thinking that they've won, and that's what court is. Court is simply a lottery. You don't go in and, I won. He says, no, they let you, because what they have to do is to keep selling lottery tickets. They got to let one or two win every so often. If you never heard of anyone winning a lottery ticket, well, you'd start to think that it was all bogus, right? So they let the odd one win. Don't kid yourself. The defense and prosecution drink together with the judge, and they decide your fate, depending on the case and the value of it, and the sell value to the other people. How many more lottery tickets would it sell? It might cost us 100,000 here, but we're going to make billions there. So you have to start thinking in it in terms of business. It's all business with them. It's all corporate. It's all money, all of it. And
Yep.
We're
Yep.
getting close.
They've monetized sin.
They've monetized your soul.
Yeah.
That's what they've done. And, you got people chasing after this and chasing after that. They got you running around chasing your tail, because, you see, any form of exchange is in direct violation of natural creator law. And I'll tell you why. It's a very simple thing. I started off with the tree down to the acorn. Well, you see, there's creation, the one singular intention placed into the soil, shoots forth to the sun, and divides at the top into two, and each of those divides into two. So what you have is a singular intention with an exponential creation. A gift must only go one way, because when it does, it explodes both. And I'll give a quick analogy. We've got to be close to a break, yes?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay, that's all I need. Think of a 5-year-old. At Christmas morning, you've bought the coolest present for this little 5-year-old. And they're just going to be squealing when they open it up. So here you are, and you're excited because you're waiting for that moment for the child to open it. Then the child opens it and just explodes in glee. And you explode in glee with them, because you just see the light up, because joy is infectious. Now, did you think you needed anything back from the 5-year-old, or was that enough? There's your singular intention with your exponential creation.
Beautiful. And with that, we'll go to the break. Catch you on the other side. Welcome back to Oracle Broadcasting Network. You're with Santos Bonacci and Kate of Gaia. And we're going to round off the show with the last segment. Kate, let's just round off the points about the name, etc., and the system, and how we can say goodbye to it. Get out of her if you do not want to share with her in her sins.
Yeah, render unto Caesar what's his. It's all the fiction illusions his. It boils down to the name, people. I know this is going to be a paradigm shift in your thinking, because my first approach to this was, well, gosh, everything that everyone's doing just isn't working. So I knew the system was broke. I just didn't know how far. It's completely broke. And that's what ended up working down to. It will be a paradigm shift in your thinking. Spend some time, read the Dummy's Guide to Freedom, absorb it, breathe. This is not a drive-through Freedom Mart. Okay, you've been duped for a lifetime, and there's going to be a whole lot of resistance. I know, because I had to walk through it. It's going to feel strangely comfortable. For some reason, you can't quite pinpoint it, but as you will go through it, as I've heard from so many people, Um, when the lights go on, boy, it's a miraculous thing. You see, there are no remedies in the legal system. That's illusion. There never were meant to be. It was a control system, and it was all hinged. Every little thing was hinged on your name. And I know that sounds so incredibly simple, but until they get you confessing your sins of being in the game and the name, they can do nothing. They cannot touch the living. And I know when I have rocked the boat, because when we sent yours back, Santo, what was that, about 2 weeks ago now?
3 weeks, January 13th, remember?
Oh,
Friday
that's
the
January
13th.
13th. And I sent my second slap to the head January 31st in the mirror. I love playing their game backwards. They don't like me much. I know when I've done something. I know when something is causing a stir when they come after me, because they generally, as a rule, have left me alone. And here's the joy of divine providence in sitting where I am now. I know I am alive, and I know I am free, and I know they can't touch me, regardless of what they think, because I will stand in my circle of honor. People have to get out of this whole exchange mentality, and it's going to be a stretch for a bit, because everyone's going to want to try and solve all their problems in the instant they start thinking of the ramifications of being free. We don't we didn't get into this mess all at once, and we won't get out of this mess all at once, but at least now you have the keys to freedom so that you can start taking that walk at last. And the road from where you might be, remember, uh, I walked this myself. No one else. I had everyone else around me. I am the net result of that experiential. I am your creation. Those that have met me, I am every much a part of you as you are of me, and everything that I do is the net result of all my interactions. So this is why people have asked me, I do everything. It's a gift. Take it. If you want your freedom, it's there. And believe me, it's been paid for in very priceless ways. So, one example, my dad had to pass away last year for me to get the last key to traveling international, etc. So, this came at great personal cost, and all I want is for it not to be wasted. It's a gift, and I wish it upon you if it's your free will choice to be free. Take the time, though. Don't think you're just going to walk in there and go, oh, look at that, I'm done, screw you, and then that's it. No, this is about taking back sovereignty. You want to claim your sovereignty, then you better start acting like the kings and queens you are, because that's where you need to be. And that a true sovereign is one who asks for the allegiance of another so that the sovereign may serve them, not the other way around. This is about gifting in its most ultimate and perfect pure sense. This is about getting back to the basics of the heart. This is about love. We didn't come here to learn love. We are love. We just came here to put it into action. So shall we? That's all I ever say to anyone. It's not a big deal. You know, you're not going to solve all your problems overnight. But we have solved the biggest one, and now, after understanding the dis-ease, we can finally heal. And we do this one being at a time, one spark of the all spark at a time. So, how's that? Does that wrap it up?
Sounds like a good plan to me, Kate. Sounds like a good plan to me. I'm in.
It's a paradigm shift, and people better have that in their mind before they go anywhere near my stuff. But how did you feel after you sent yours off?
Oh, like never before in my life. Consciously aware, yeah, consciously aware that I am my own nation in the kingdom of heaven. I am on no one's ship, and if they want to contract with me, whew, they better be ready for what it means now, because they don't have a name. I don't negate my divinity. I don't call myself Mr. Santos Bonacci, the corporate fiction, anymore. That's fraud. I'm not going to participate.
Exactly.
So,
and you mentioned fraud. I did want to bring this up for people, how they had us both ways. You got to remember, they do everything in a mirror. Everything in a mirror. So every truth you see is only a half truth. When you get rid of your name, this is how devious this was. Once you get rid of the name, you are now acting in honor. And you can actually use that again, because once a fraud is revealed, it is null and void, nunc pro tunc, according to their Roman maxims. So I take them at their word, and guess what? They have to take themselves at the word. Here's the other thing. By asking someone else who is still in the system their name, or them offering their name, if you ask for it, you're literally aiding and abetting in their fraud. So,
Yeah.
you're either committing fraud or aiding and abetting in it. So they have us in complete dishonor all the time. That's why if anyone says, how do you win in court? And I says, well, you don't. And let me know if you're going to be in court so I can be there with a cat of nine tails to hand to the judge, or I'll just whip your sorry ass myself for being so foolish. Know thyself? What are you doing there? If you truly knew yourself, you wouldn't be there. And that video was the only time I ever set foot in their court, and the truth now is I cannot set foot in their court, because if I did willingly, I would be invading under the law of nations and committing a literal act of war, and that's another story. But it's a very, very carefully contrived game. It's Phoenician law. It's dark. It's as dark as it gets. But
Yeah. We should perhaps discuss some of those dark features in a subsequent show. Kate, can I book you, say, for a couple of weeks? Would you like, in a couple of weeks' time, to return, and we'll do the full 2 hours, and perhaps take some calls and elaborate more on the document, the Denique Ultimatum Reverie or Verum document.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
And
go ahead.
We've got a minute and a half, Kate. Take it away.
Yeah. Again, I'll direct people to my blog page, loveovermind.wordpress.com. All my contact information is there. All the documents, interviews with Santo and others are there. I do most of my interviews now with Santo, because we're both exactly on the same page and know exactly who we are. So please feel free, get a hold of me. You'll be surprised how quick I get back to you. Everyone always is.
Yeah, beautiful. And so we'll be back with Kate of Gaia in 2 weeks for callers. That'll be great. We can elaborate on this subject of losing the name and winning the game, and showing how the system is basically an unconscious corporate entity which has basically overgrown itself. It's out of control. It's a military-industrial complex. So, well, Mussolini defined it perfectly in his day when he said the fascism can be defined as a corporate government, you see. So that's what we've got, and that's why the Congress at Washington, D.C. has the two fasci of Rome flanking the military admiralty flag, showing, in fact, who's running the show. Always has been the big boy on the block, and they don't want to budge because they've got a lot of support. So we have to withdraw that support. What do you think, Kate?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
If you worship the flag, you're worshiping the military. That's that simple.
Yep. Thanks, Kate. We'll see you soon. Thanks, listeners. Until next week. Bye-bye.